Welcome back to Life You Imagined. My name is Nico, and today we're going to talk about the book Shadow in Face. I mean attached. Recently I did a review for the book The Highly Sensitive Person, which I very much enjoyed. And one of the chapters that I really liked in that one is a chapter on attachment theory. And that was the first time that I'd really read much about it. I'd heard the term, but I didn't really know much about it. So naturally I was like, cool, I want to know more about this. By the way, I have to kind of be honest here. I was going to do the review, but I realized I'm actually not going to do the review of the book because my dog ate my homework. I actually lent this book to a coworker a few months ago. And yep, sweet. It's a good book. I don't remember if I talked about a little bit of what attachment theory is. I think I did in the other one, but we're going to do it again. Why? Because this whole thing is focused on attachment theory. Whoa! So attachment theory is the idea that we each have different styles of attachment to other people, how we would choose to interact, how we choose to behave, even though it doesn't feel like we choose. It's an automatic, tend to be an automatic response. And these particular styles are based upon primarily our upbringing, how we dealt with our parents and the kind of love and interaction that they showed us. But then it gets fleshed out as we mature. So in our teenage years, as we start to become a little more independent and we start to interact more with other people, sometimes in a more romantic setting, we start learning about how other people treat us, and we tell ourselves these stories about these things, and we start either reacting in a more protective way or a more hands-on way or a more balanced way. There's a lot of things we can do based on what we learn from dealing with all the other people. But basically these things over time form your primary attachment style. Now you're not going to be just one thing, like once you take a test, if you decide to do that. There is a test in this book that you can, follow that whole thing and go, oh, I'm this and this and that. We're always a mix of things. We're always a balance of things. You might be more of one style more than less of another, and different traits might come out in different situations. Like you might be one way at the beginning of a relationship, and then you might change at the end of a relationship, or just depending on context. So what are these attachment styles? You basically have three. It's anxious, avoidant, and secure. Now, naturally, secure is the more grounded, healthy one. That's where you are more empathetic to what your partner is feeling and saying. You don't take things as personally. You're willing to be more patient and more, again, you're more understanding of things. If they blow up or if they say something that might feel a little, hurtful or rude, usually you don't take it instantly personally. And you're just kind of like, okay, I understand. They're going through these things. I am here for you, but, you let me know. That's more of a calmer, less reactive type style, the way you deal with people. Then you got the two on either side of that. So you have one that's the avoidant, which is the people that, you keep someone at arm's length and you don't want the pressure of a relationship often. If people need too much from you, you start pushing them back away again. So it's fine up until a point, and then you're like, okay, I'm feeling smothered, right? You have that reaction. It's too much. They don't want to be tied down to things. So when that gets too serious, the natural reaction of an avoidant attachment style is to burp. The natural reaction of an avoidant attachment style is to push them away. And then on the other side of that, you have the anxious attachment style, which is an empty wall with pink. And that is the one that is much more concerned about how the other person feels, what the other person is thinking, that they need more attention, that they want to be closer to that person, they want to know where you are, they want to know what's going on, and they're worrying a lot about it. They worry about the relationship. Am I doing it right? Is this happening the way it needs to happen? Is this person feeling this way? Are they not? So they're a little more needy in that way. It's kind of the opposite of the avoidant attachment style. But as I said, everyone is a mix of these things, and you're a mix of these things in different contexts as well. You might have some secure traits in some ways. You might be very patient, very fine, don't overreact or push people away in some situations. And then you have other specific scenarios in which maybe it triggers an avoidant thing where you suddenly go, oh, okay, this is too much. Or it triggers an anxious thing where you suddenly get really obsessed and like, what are they thinking? What are they doing? Oh my God, are you okay? Am I okay? Is everything okay? Is everything okay? So this book is very focused on this concept, and I very much like that. There's a lot of books that I've read that tend to have a general premise, but then they add all these extra pieces to it as you go. So, they'll go through the initial idea, maybe in the first couple of chapters, and then there's like all these extra things they start putting in the book to, not to pad it out, it's to expand it, I guess, to make it feel it's more thorough and how it affects all these other things. And it can be kind of overwhelming because by the time you get to the end of the book, you're kind of like, okay, wait, what was that initial premise again? There was so many things you tried to tell me. And what I like about this is it's very focused. So it starts kind of like top tier, the general overview of what this is, and it slowly gets more and more and more specific and detailed, but it doesn't add a million things to it. So it just stays with, here's these attachment styles, here's how they happen, and then we get into each specific one in, a section. So there's a long section of just avoidant, and a long section of just secure, and a long section of just anxious. So you get to really get into it. And there's a lot of examples. They do like conversations in here where you get to watch a dialogue between people and go, okay, follow this. Now, is this person anxious, avoidant, or secure? And you kind of have, from what you've learned, it's like, it feels more interactive. You're kind of like, interesting. Yeah, well, they said this, but then they did this when the person reacted that way. So maybe they're avoidant. As I said, there's a test in here that you can take. I'll say I took the test, and I initially thought that I was going to be avoidant because I do tend to sort of be a hermit, and I will keep people at arm's length a lot. And I know that I have issues with being open and honest and vulnerable and intimate. Even in friendships, I have my armor up. So I figured that in a relationship, since I don't usually interact with people that much and I don't have many relationships, that, I'm going to be predominantly avoidant. Turns out, at least according to the test, who knows how accurate this absolutely is, but when I took the test, it turns out that I was mostly anxious, which was surprising. As I said, I thought it was going to be avoidant. My second was avoidant, and then I still had some secure things, so that's good. I guess I have some grounded positive things here in my attachment styles, but the more I thought about it, it kind of makes sense. I was very concerned about how I was perceived and whether or not I was doing things correctly, like I was mocking earlier. If I was, how they were feeling, what they were thinking. I did need more validation. And in some ways, maybe I still do, to be told that I'm cared about and that I'm loved and all these things. And I'm thinking that for me, I'm just sort of going off right now. And this is not going to be relevant to you. But for me, I'm thinking I might have developed avoidant tendencies to compensate for the fact that I actually am anxious. So it's easier to just not even deal with the fact that when I get into a relationship, or when I used to get into relationships, I don't know if it's applicable now. I have made a lot of improvements. I do feel more secure in many ways, so hopefully that's improved. But in the past, I used to be much more needy, and I needed the attention and the validation and all that kind of stuff. And so it's easier just not having to deal with anyone to trigger those feelings. So I think I ended up just not deal with it then. So I think it was a compensation mechanism to do that. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just what I'm thinking for myself. As I said, I like the format. It's very focused. It focuses on these specific styles, and you can really learn to apply these things to your life. You can learn to apply them to other people you know, family, friends, significant other. It helps if you're be dating somebody. You can learn what your attachment style is, how you tend to react, and you can start noticing those things in someone else to see if this person might be a good compatibility for you. Now, pretty much anyone with a secure partner is going to be mostly okay. And that doesn't mean it's going to last forever, because love is eternal. Nope. It's not. Sorry. But yeah, and either the anxious or the avoidant with a secure person tends to work out pretty well for the most part. But the worst one they talk about is, I'm sure you already figured it out, the anxious plus the avoidant, because both of those trigger each other's coping mechanisms of, one person gets more possessive and the other person pulls away, even more. So as this, anxious goes this way, avoidant goes this way, and it just keeps doing this. So that's the bad situation. It's a bad thing. It's bad. So watch yourself for those kind of things. You might already be in a situation like that where what you need from the relationship is different than what the other person wants to give you, or what they're comfortable or what they're naturally able to give. And you know what? That's okay. So one of the things I thought was most fascinating, and this is how I started the written review of this book on the Life You Imagine site, and is that I used to always feel codependency, or any dependency. Codependency usually has a negative connotation, but any dependency on another human being was negative, or a sign of weakness, that I can't do things on my own. So I kind of rebelled against that, and maybe that's part of the avoidant stuff I have too, is I try to do everything on my own, or have tried. I'm getting better about, working with other people and realizing I can't do it all on my own anymore. That's a new realization for me, by the way. I can't do it all? What? But I've tried to do everything by myself, and I've realized that, or I used to think that being dependent on someone else was negative, and that it was weak. And according to this, maybe not. We evolved to depend on other human beings, which totally makes sense. I get that. Or we wouldn't have created societies otherwise and gotten to the point that we are today. That we are interdependent as a species. We do rely on each other. And it's one of the things I thought was really interesting that kind of surprised me was the idea that sometimes to be more independent, to be able to take more of those risks, we need to actually be able to depend on someone. So a lot of times we think that being dependent on someone makes you less risk prone, and you're less independent, right? Because now you have this other person in your life, and now you're focused on them. But they said that you can actually be more independent because you have this sort of a safety blanket. It reminds me of when you're young, if you were walking around in the yard or something, very, very young, like a toddler, and your mom's watching you, or your dad, and you're doing that, and you keep taking a few steps forward, and maybe you haven't been into this part of the yard or the park or wherever you're going, and the mom stays behind, watches you carefully as you're kind of walking around like, oh, neat, what is this, what is that? But you keep taking a few steps, and you look back and make sure your mom is still there, or your dad. It's like, okay, it's okay. I can explore a little bit more. Oh God, where am I? Oh, is mom still there? Yes. Okay, good. It's that feeling of security, knowing that you have that person, that support person there to help you be able to go out in the world and explore. And that thing from childhood actually apparently still applies to adulthood. Perhaps it can be friendships too. It can be family, but having a relationship like that, it made me think differently about depending on people. That maybe the dependence, obviously it's biologically wired to do that, but maybe it actually can increase independence and all that. And I was like, that's strange. Did not expect that. But interesting. I like being surprised in a good way. So yeah, easy read. It's broken up into tiny little sections, so you can pick up, read a couple of paragraphs, put it back down. Yeah, it's not scientific, it's not overly academic, none of that kind of stuff. It's useful. A lot of cool, crazy diagrams and tests and things to help figure yourself out and figure other people out, and to really learn about the people around you and how you can better work with them and better understand them, so that you can adapt to what they need. And hopefully if they learn it, they can help to maybe slowly adapt to what your needs are. And remember, these styles are not necessarily bad. They're just what you're looking for from a relationship. So just because you have maybe more anxious attachment style, like myself apparently, it just means that this is what you need to feel comfortable, to feel loved. And usually when you get that, when you're able to get those things from the other person, they're able to give you the things that check the boxes that you've developed over a lifetime of, oh, this means I'm loved and cared for, often you'll relax. So same thing with avoidant. If people give you what you need, oftentimes you'll be able to relax and you'll be able to accept a little more, commitment or a little bit more, whatever we're avoiding, because apparently I'm both. But yeah, really fascinating book. I haven't actually read much relationship books so far in this journey of mine. And again, probably because I am a hermit and I do tend to avoid intimacy. So it's probably one of my big areas of improvement that would probably benefit me. It's the one I avoid because I'm probably more scared of that kind of stuff, scared of connecting with people, because what happens when you connect with people? They can betray you, they can hurt you, they can reject you, they can tell you that you're dumb. Hey, Nico, you're dumb. Oh, I don't want to be dumb, I want to be cool. So read attached so that you can be cool, because that's the goal of the book. Definitely recommended. Very helpful, very useful, very eye-opening, and well-written, easy to read, all that. So absolutely interested in improving your relationships, understanding yourself in relationships more, attachment theory in general, and specifically this book, Attached, is really great. Very much liked it. So thank you very much for watching. This is Life You Imagined. My name is Nico, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Well, hey, welcome back to Life You Imagined. My name is Nico. I'm leaning over when I talk, like one of those birds with the water that drinks. Speaking of birds with water that drinks, today we're going to talk about the book Attached. Segue. Natural reaction of an avoidant attachment style. Natural reaction of an avoidant attachment style. Enunciate.
Hey, you want to be a better person? You want to live a better life? Sweet! Make sure you hit subscribe on Life You Imagined YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that fucking notification bell so you're always up to date with all the newest offerings from Life You Imagined. Don't forget to go ahead and hit like on the video and share with all your friends. Leave a comment with all your fucking useless information, because I'm never going to read it. Oh, and make sure you go over to lifeyouimagine.com and check out everything I have over there. Look at me, buy my stuff, do everything I want you to do. Sales, marketing, promo. Buy my stuff, buy it. Look at me, pay attention to me and everything I do. I'm insecure.